the 1800s in Hebron. This one on the right here, on the corner. And down these alleyways there's one or two. This is the oldest part of Hebron, really, where it was.
Who is like the Lord? There is no one who is like the Lord. He is strong and mighty. Who is like the Lord? He is worthy. Stand up and give him the praise. Who is like the Lord? There is no one who is like the Lord. He is strong and mighty. Who is like the Lord? He is worthy. Stand up and give him the praise. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Our God is worthy of glory. From the rising of the sun to its going down, the name of the Lord is to be praised. Who is like the Lord? There is no one who is like the Lord. He is strong and mighty.
In their churches and other places, and as soon as the Byzantine monks would welcome Israel. Thank you.
בוקר טוב.
שמעון, עשו מזה זבל, יא בן אדם. לא, זה לא זה, אני מיד בשביל לקחת.
פעם ראשונה. לא.
He is worthy. Stand up and give him the praise. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
Merci à notre temple.
أحلى مزة أحلى مزة مزة كلها فلس عارفة شو فلس
It's built in exactly the same way.
So, what actually happened here? Let's read this. Let's read this.
Singing. Somebody else.
The whole purpose of it was to know that you're on the same place. Because the Jews would say, okay, this is in the reading of the ancient manuscripts of the early Gospels. There's no chapters and verses. They're much, much, much later. And as I've described in the north, often not logical. Starting in the middle of a story. Because it's chapter 23, 24 and into 25. It's the life of Sarah. Every year, the first reading after the Festival of Tabernacles, when we start reading the Torah all over again, the very first reading will be Genesis, Bereshit, in the beginning. The second one is the story of Noah. The third one is Lech Lecha, take yourself from your father's land to a land I will show you. It's Abraham leaving, or in the Kasdim. But this belonged to Abraham as an inheritance forever. Now, when the early Muslims came here, they said, well, this belongs to us because we're descended from Abraham through Ishmael. The fact is, Ishmael was an Egyptian, not an Arab. An Egyptian, there's no connection. Muhammad made that connection like he made many other connections when he wrote the Quran. Now, who else is descended from Abraham and Isaac? And
Jacob.
And Esau. Esau. Right. Who are the people descended from Matzair, from Esau? Why were the Israelites forbidden to go through the land of a certain people so as not to make war with them? Because they are your brothers, the sons of Esau. the Edomites. The Edomites are descended from Esau. Herod the Great. He built this massive monument to show the Jews we are brothers through this. Even if I'm now the king of Israel, of the Jews, through the Romans, we are brothers because of this. And he built this massive monument to make a statement that the Jews, the descendants of the Israelites and the Edomites, are still brothers. That's like only 600 years ago. But from the moment the Mamluks took over this place, Jews were forbidden to go into the building for 700 years. They were only allowed up to the 7th step up there, not beyond it. Jews were not allowed on the Temple Mount for 700 years because of the Mamluks. And not until 1967, think of it. So in 1967 we were able to go up, and in 1997, 30 years later, Netanyahu made an agreement whereby the custodianship of this building is shared by the Jews and the Arabs. The tombs are down underground, the cenotaphs to the markers for Isaac and Rebecca. On this side, where we're going up, you'll see the cenotaphs to Abraham. Abraham, our forefather, and on the left it says Marka, Sion. It's not his tomb. I'm explaining again, these are built by the Muslims to commemorate. The Jews use them to commemorate too. Seeing this, we brought in some big crystals that look like crystals. After the service, we began to sing and dance. During the dancing, slowly made our way to the iron frameworks, lifting them and revealed the spell. It was held in place by metal bars attached to a surrounding turret. We began hammering on the rock with a chisel, and after a while it began to move. Finally, the stone moved under the small hole. Reaching down on the ground, we see several stones beginning to be stuck one to the other. The wind seems to be originating between them. Into the earth. We crawled in a very narrow opening into a circular cave carved into the stone deep in the earth. The cave was filled with dust to its very edge.
Shalom, shalom, Jerusalem. peace, Jerusalem, city of our God. Their salvation was poured out for you, the atoning of the Lord. Once your streets are filled with joy, branches raised up high, shouting, blessed be the Holy One, Yeshua.
Down here, it's a water cistern. It's a cistern for gathering water in the rainy season from the roof down pipes underground into the rock to store it for the dry season, which can be 7-8 months long. Hydraulic plaster, it stops water getting through. So it keeps the water in the system and stops it soaking into the rock. There are no steps to get down to these systems. Once a year, water. The one on the outside, the same story, because that is going to be someone's roof on the other side. And in the middle is just filled with rock fill, broken rock. That Mikveh there, we have another Mikveh in here, which is filled in. Unfortunately, they couldn't preserve that one. Look at these are vessels. Look at the paintings on the vessels. This is not the stuff the cheap people have. This is stuff that's very expensive and exclusive. Very fine, thin pottery. But what's the main problem if you're a priest? The pots like this absorb impurities. And if someone's impure has touched it, you've got to smash it. So it costs them a lot to replace those regularly. How do you get around the problem? Stone, created by God, cannot ever be impure. So the priesthood would drink their water and their wine from stone vessels. That's a sole piece of stone carved out. Think how many pieces of stone that big you make for yourself, and how many times you carve it out till it breaks, till it doesn't break, and you get yourself a cup. Think how many. Think how much that costs. How about that for a drinking cup with a ridge around the edge, all from a single piece of stone, carved out and hollowed, not soft stone. This particular piece of glass with the design underneath it, just look how it takes the light.
Oh my goodness.
Right, those ridges in it have helped us identify this piece of glass. It was a bowl made by a man called Ennion of Sidon, who was the most famous glass blower in the world in the 1st century. How about alabaster, the most precious stone in the ancient world? Very, very brittle and difficult to carve with. A whole vase made of it from Egypt, here in this house. What about this marble that's part of a plate? What about this for holding like a thimble holder or something over here? For holding little tiny things, little tiny pills, heaven knows what. All carved out of solid stone. That's alabaster as well. What about plates carved from solid basalt? Did you say? Okay. Basalt or volcanic rock. Dishes made of volcanic rock. Imported vessels of fine bright red pottery, imported terra sigillata pottery, 1st century before Christ. Okay, it doesn't mean it wasn't around later. Have a look over here. Look at the vessels. Ephesus that's found in this castle, in this palace. Little files for threading thread through off a spinning wheel. Is next to it living rooms, eating areas, servants' areas, and a courtyard next to the huge reception. Well-evident resident. That could be in a reception room like that. And then who'd be in the open air courtyard out here with by a charcoal fire? Perhaps it was on account of their ability to cause mischief that the rabbis ruled that they may not raise chickens in Jerusalem on account of the holy things, i.e. the sacrifices, and that priests may not raise them in the entire land of Israel because of purity. Cockerel crow. What he heard. Levite priests would go with bronze trumpets on the four corners and blast every sacrifice. Blast the beginning of Sabbath. Blast the end of Sabbath. Blast the beginning of a holy convocation. Blast the end of it. And blast the the 4 watches of the night. So the cock crow that he would hear would be the blast of the change of watch in the night. But if we want to know what it was like in the courtyard next to where the chief priests and elders were trying Jesus, then you're standing in it. You're right here, right now. Okay, this is the courtyard.
Ephraim, my son, how my heart would thrill to hear you say, Messiah has come. Oh, my brothers, hear these words. May they pierce your soul. Turn again to worship Adonai, Mashiach, you will know. Shalom, shalom, Jerusalem. Peace be to you. When Messiah may His praise be found in you. Shalom, shalom, Jerusalem. Peace be to you. When Messiah comes to take us home, may His praise be found in you.
Face of the skull. Have a look at this photograph. Can you see the face, the skull, in the rock? 2 eyes, nose and mouth. See it? Good. There it is. Now this photograph was taken just over 100. I didn't take it. It was my younger brother. Because it doesn't look the same. A big mountain all the way over there, right under the walls. And King Solomon had this piece cut out, stone by stone, because he wanted a huge amount of stone to build the temple. But it tells us something very important about what was here at the time of Jesus. It tells us that this was a vineyard. Someone was growing vines with grapes on to make wine, right here. So there was a garden, and in the garden, a tomb, a rich man's burial place, cut out of the rock away down there. So we ask ourselves, who could be the owner of this vineyard and this tomb? Maybe it's Joseph of Arimathea. He is rich, he can afford it, he's important, and he believes in Jesus. And he is the one who, when Jesus is dying on the cross, says to himself and to his friends, we must bury him properly in front of the door. Now, St. Mark tells us when they looked in on that Sunday morning, they looked in and they looked to the right. And that is very important, because there are hundreds of tombs in Jerusalem that are 2,000 years old. So what's different about this one? Well, this. Most of the others are this shape, and the door is here. So you just look straight in. They look to the right. This is the only one that we know of that's close enough to the city to be a possibility. There are others, but they're right out round the edge, too far away to have carried the body of Jesus. So is this the place? We can't say definitely yes it is. What we can say is all the evidence says that it could be. Outside the walls, place of the skull, a place of execution, a rich man's vineyard, and a tomb where you look to the right. It all seems to fit together. So we're going
There's a car.
A little bit of construction, but that is solid bedrock. That is solid bedrock. And if you look, these are long stairs, narrow stairs, and then you get to a big wide one. And at the top is a big wide one. This is a pool that people came to immerse themselves. But the wide step, I can feel safe. Baptismo. Baptismo. So what they're doing is most people can't swim.
The people of Israel had made offerings to it. It was called Nehushtan.
So you see what's happened? 800 years later, and the Israelites, the remainder of Israelites in Judah, they're now giving offerings to this thing, like it's got a power of its own, like it's a god of its own. So finally, Hezekiah destroys it. He can do amazing things. So people start to believe, you know what? This is a place of healing. If you've got a pool 60 meters by 60 meters, and another one beyond the wall, 60 meters by 60 meters, and it's in a seismic zone where there are earth tremors every week, little ones, what's going to happen when the water's still in the morning? to the shape, right? So I'm not saying it wasn't an angel stepping.
Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool in Aramaic called Bethesda.
By the way, stop 1 second.
Yeah.
It says in the English Aramaic. It does not say that in the original Greek Gospels. It says in Hebraion, which means in Hebrew. Someone, namely Saint Jerome. But in general, we're all well. The people that come here tend to be very well. So when Jesus asked this question of this man, do you want to be healed? We're all thinking, oh my God, this guy's been stuck there for 38 years. Of course I want to be healed. That's not the question. That's not the question. Does the man want to be healed? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He says to him, well, sir, you know, every time I try and go in the pool, someone gets there in front of me. He's making an excuse. Why is he making an excuse? Because begging around the world, if you've seen it in countries you've traveled to, it's a profession. Now, I'm not saying that this man had any choice, but it's a profession. He intentionally came to Jerusalem knowing that he's going to heal two types of people in Jerusalem. And if we go by John's Gospel, where it's set out into 7 supernatural miracles that he does, the first one's the wine and the water. I mean, we're talking about general healing a leper, casting out demons. He does lots of that. But in general, Jesus is extremely purposeful in what he does and where he does it. He goes to the Mount of Moreh to raise a widow's son. Why? Because that's where Elijah did it. To show that he's not just another healer. Okay? He's coming here to Jerusalem. I talked about this yesterday on the bus as we came out to Bethlehem. The concept of restoration in his ministry. So even before he's born, the first message of restoration is coming, because the people who are considered the scum of society, the ones who are not permitted to give witness, to bear witness in a Jewish court, because they never went to school and they don't know the Torah, the shepherds, they're the ones who come and get the message first and get to bear witness to others. So here he's doing something else. If we read 2 Samuel 5, Dolly, we're not going to, we are going to the Pool of Siloam. Okay, we'll deal with that there. When we read John 9, we'll deal with that there. There's a purpose that he can only heal at 2 water sources. Near the Siloam pool and the Bethesda pool. He heals there a man blind from birth, and here a man who's been crippled for 38 years. There's a reason he does it. So you've got until tomorrow to think what the reason is. Okay. This is off, isn't it? This is Psalm 148, verse 13 and 14. Okay? Psalms, yeah. Not in English, though, in the original language. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizgav shemo levado. Hodu al eretz v'shamayim, vayoram keren le'amo. Tehillah lechol chasidah